When I joined the production house in Singapore, I was aware of some of the content that they have made before because they are one of the biggest production houses in Singapore. I mean, I think they're the biggest independent production house in Asia. So I was aware of their content, and I really I liked some of their content that they made. They do a lot of stuff for Discovery Channel, Channel News Asia, Net Geo, and of course some short form work for online. But their main type of work was long form factual content for TV. So I like documentaries, and that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to join and work with them. And I think in terms of culture shock, the pace in which they were working was the thing that I was very amazed by, and it was immediately felt from the day I started working there. In terms of how fast they wanted stuff to be turned around, in terms of how much work was happening at the same time, how many projects were being juggled at the same time. Yeah, so that was the main culture shock that I got when I first entered the industry.
I think maybe for like listeners out there, like could you give an breakdown on what an editor does? Because I think when people think about filmmaking and producing videos, they think about just someone holding a camera, and after that they don't really know much, and then suddenly it appears on YouTube like magically. But in between there's this whole post-production process. So can you like elaborate on that? What do people usually do on post-production, and where does an editor come in that process?
Okay, I think first of all I want to say that I've been in the industry for about 3.5 to 4 years. So these are just my views also. Yeah. It's obviously
fledglings
different from person to person. I think being an editor is one of the most important parts of or rather editing is one of the most important parts of the production process, right? Of the filmmaking process. That's where you take all the footage that's been shot, and then you try to piece together your final product. So some shows you have months of footage that you have to go through. Some shows, you have like a few days of stuff to go through. So that's where you put the jigsaw together, and on top of that, not only the footage, you choose the music, you choose the sound effects, you decide the pace in which. I think pace is such a big thing in editing. You as an editor, you have to get the feel right, and you have to get the pace right. On top of that, you still need to deal with the director and the director's vision of what the show is. So your communication with the director is very, very important, because if you are both on different wavelengths, then that's a recipe for disaster, because you need to understand the director's vision, and the director needs to respect your skill as an editor also. So it's a balance there.
So okay, maybe you could also elaborate a bit on what the director does, or like what the producer does in a production company, because I think we can help our listeners understand like the full picture of the creative production process.
A director in a production company, or rather in TV we call them producers. So a producer would be the person that sees the project through from the beginning to the end. So if right from conceptualization, where they do their research, they come up with ideas, they find the people. For example, if it's a documentary, they find the subject to interview. They find the interviewees, they find the locations, then they talk to the production managers about organizing the crew and specific production needs. And then they go out and they shoot. Most of the time, the director gives the vision to the crew, and the crew will execute it for them. After they shoot, the director goes through the footage, logs the footage, and then gives it to the editor, and then sits with the editor and pieces the whole thing together with the editor. So some directors are really hands-on in the edit, and some just let the editor do their thing. But what I think it boils down to is how experienced the editors are, because I was more of a junior editor, so I think the directors that I worked with were more hands-on, and they were guiding me more, versus some of the senior editors in my company had more free reign with creativity. But that's also a thing where it comes with your years of experience under your belt, right? If you want to take a risk, you're more likely to be allowed to take that risk if you are a senior editor than if I suggest something as a junior editor.